नमस्कार दोस्तों, हमारे YouTube चैनल में आप सबका स्वागत है।
UGC NET Syllabus, Teaching Aptitude, Unit 1, Video Part 1. 1. Teaching. In education, teaching is the concerted sharing of knowledge and experience, which is usually organized within a discipline, and more generally, the provision of stimulus to the psychological and intellectual growth of a person by another person. It is an instruction, or delivering a particular skill or subject which is pre-planned behaviors informed by learning principles and child development theory which directs and guides instruction to ensure desired students' outcomes. It is a complex, multifaceted activity, often requiring us as instructors multiple tasks and goals simultaneously and flexibly. Teaching is an activity aimed at bringing about meaningful learning through a method that is morally and pedagogically, educationally, acceptable. Teaching involves a teacher, a learner, content in form of knowledge, facts, information and skill, to be communicated, a thoughtful purpose on the part of the learners to learn, and finally a method that respects the learner's cognitive integrity and freedom of choice. Having a consistent value of teaching is always important for a good education system. Therefore, curriculum can always be found in both Eastern and Western education system. However, with different interpretations towards the term curriculum, attitudes and values towards pedagogical approach may vary, which in turn affects how students learn in schools. There are two fundamentally different ways of understanding teaching. 1. Teaching as an instructor-centered activity in which knowledge is transmitted from someone who has acquired that knowledge to novice learners. Teaching as knowledge transmission. 2. Teaching as a learner-centered activity in which the instructor ensures that learning is made possible for novice learners and supports, guides, and encourages them in their active and independent creation of new knowledge. Teaching as assisted knowledge creation. Definition. According Oxford Dictionary, impart of knowledge or skill, give instruction or lessons, instill and inspire with. According E. Seiton, 1981. What all the great teachers appear to have in common is love of their subject, an objective satisfaction in arousing this love in their students, and an ability to convince them that what they are being taught is deadly serious. Gage defined. Teaching as a process of relationship, which should be dealt with cooperation. According to Brubaker, in teaching children plays the central role and the teacher, optimal. According to Smith, 1947, considered teaching as a tripolar process involving agent, or sources of producing learning which may be human or material. 2. The goal or target to be achieved. 3. The intervening variables consisting of learning or teaching situation, involving human or physical conditions and instructional methods. According to Amiden, 1967, considered teaching as a process of interaction between teacher and the taught as a cooperative enterprises as a two-way traffic. According to some definition, teaching is the process of attending to people's needs, experiences, and feelings, and making specific interventions to help them learn particular things. Interventions commonly take the form of questioning, listening, giving information, explaining some phenomenon, demonstrating a skill or process, testing understanding and capacity, and facilitating learning activities such as note taking, discussion, assignment writing, simulations and practice. Difference between training, coaching, teaching and mentoring. Training, coaching, teaching and mentoring are similar words. Theses are used for learning process in different ways. Training is a technique frequently used in organizations or institution to build a person's skills, knowledge and attitudes in order to meet the accepted standards by a specific industry. Training help a person master a specific skill in a direct or hands-on interaction. Use training, coaching. Coaching is usually task and performance-based. It helps the students or learner to learn more efficiently depending upon ability. It is used private instruction or coaching in a particular subject or skill. Teaching. It is means provides formal education for students typically in educational institutes like school, university, college, etc. Increase capability in a general suite of skills through direct interactions with teaching, mentoring. The role of the mentor is to build capability. The developmental mentor helps the learner discover their own wisdom by encouraging them to work towards career goals or develop self-reliance. Great mentors fill in blind spots, clarify motivations, and remove mental obstacles to success over longer-term interactions. Difference between according to table. 1.1 Nature and characteristics of teaching. Provide guidance and training. Interaction between teacher and students. Teaching is an art to give knowledge to student with effective way. Teaching is a science to educate fact and causes of different topic of different subjects. Encourage students to learn more and more. Provide formal as well as informal education, communication of information and knowledge to students. In teaching, teacher imparts information in interesting way so that can easily understand the information. Teaching is tool to help students to adjust him in society and environment. 1.2 Objectives of teaching. Before decide teaching objective institutional have aims and mission. Teacher has following objectives in teaching session. 1. Development ability of critical and logical thinking. Develop the ability of critical and logical thinking with process. Identify the problems, analyze the problems, select relevant facts, principles, etc. Establish relationships, advance arguments in support of or against an issue, draw inferences and conclusions, verify the inferences. 2. Development of knowledge. The student acquires knowledge of various terms, concepts, events, ideals, problems, personalities and principles related to the study, recollection facts, events, years and terms, etc. Recognize facts, events, concepts, years, etc. Read information presented in different forms. Show information on maps, charts, diagrams, etc. 3. Development of understanding. Develop understanding of terms, facts, events, years, principles, etc. related to the study. Classify facts, events, terms, concepts, etc. Compare and contrast the events, trends, concepts, etc. Discriminate between the significant and the silly matters. Illustrated events, principles by citing examples. Identify relationship between causes and effects, etc. Detect errors in the statement and rectify. Arrange facts, etc. in a particular known order. And interpret the maps, charts, etc. from the source of history. 4. Development of attitudes. Students develop favorable attitudes with show respect towards other people's ways of life, ideas, etc. Know about other religions and faiths. 4. Establish friendship with other peoples, practice the noble religions and their principles, cooperate with others in social and historical activities, appreciate cultural differences, and believe in equality for man irrespective of caste, class, creed, color and religion. V. Create interests in the study. Developed interests in the study of students with activities relating to participate in historical drama and historical occasions, visit places of historical interests, archaeological sites, museums and archives, read historical documents, maps, charts, etc. Play active roles in activities of the historical organizations and associations, write articles on related topics, teach case study and presentation of related topic. 6. Develop practical skill. Students develop practical skills with draw historical maps, charts, diagrams, prepare models, tools, etc. which helpful in the study and understanding of historical events. 7. Development of adjustment. The manner of teaching should be such that it makes the pupils feel at home in his classroom. The teacher has to ensure that the learner is well adjusted to the environment, which includes his classmates, schoolmates and other members of his society at large. 8. Achievement of values. Moral, cultural and spiritual value of students are developed by best teaching methodology, which express emphatically point out that certain basic values as respect for others, responsibility, solidarity, creativity, and integrity must be fostered in students. Emphasis should be given in educating good qualities like cooperation, goodwill, forgiveness, tolerance, honesty, patience, etc., in order to encourage universal brotherhood and to prepare students worthy citizens of the country. 9. Make friendly environment. One of the primary objectives of teaching is to make the friendly environment of the place of teaching, which is helpful to remain focused on the teaching. 1.3 Phases of teaching. Based on the procedure mentioned above, we can divide teaching into 3 sequential steps, corresponding to the stages of teaching. These phases of teaching are namely, pre-active phase of teaching, planning stage, interactive phase of teaching, implementation stage, and the post-active phase of teaching, evaluation stage. A pre-active phase. As mentioned in the previous paragraph, teaching has to be done only after a careful planning, so as to perform the task smoothly and successfully. This particular stage involves 2 major steps, namely, A. Establishment of objectives or goals. In planning a lesson, the very first step should be framing of objectives related to the topic that has to be taught. With reference to A. Period of instruction, the specific instructional objectives are to be written in behavioral terms. B. Deciding ways to achieve these objectives, as the teacher has already identified the specific objectives to be achieved with reference to the topic to be dealt with. The next move is to decide how these specific objectives are to be achieved. This should be done, keeping in mind the topic or content to be taught, as this is content specific. All topics cannot be dealt with in a uniform manner. Planning is done for deciding the following aspects: I. Learning experiences to be given. 2. Teaching approach to be followed. 3. What maxims or principles can be followed. 4. Teaching aids to be used. V. Time taken to teach the particular topic. 6. Management of the classroom. 7. Tools to be used for evaluation. B. Interactive phase. Having planned the teaching in the first phase, in the second phase, the teacher executes the plan. This is nothing but the actual teaching. For the successful implementation and achievement of the objectives framed in the first phase, the teaching should proceed in an interactive manner. Both students and teachers are involved in this process. This improves the quality of teaching. The activities that take place in this phase can be listed as follows: I. Perception. 2. Diagnosis. 3. Reaction process. Let us now see what these exactly mean. I. Perception. The aspect of perception relates both to the teacher as well as the students. As for the teacher, he or she has to perceive the classroom atmosphere, pre-planning abilities in interacting with the particular group. The students on their part have to perceive these aspects of the ability of the teacher, personality characteristics, and behavior of the teacher from the point of view of a desirable interaction between them and the teacher. 2. Diagnosis. It is the teacher's concern to diagnose the abilities of the pupils, their academic background, their intelligence, their interests and aptitude. This can be done by questioning or by accessing their performance by providing opportunities to do so. The students access their own abilities, interests, aptitude and behavior performance of their responses through verbal or non-verbal interaction. 3. Reaction process. Classroom teaching involves continuous action-reaction between teacher and pupils. The action of the teacher decides the reaction of the pupils. For this to be performed successfully so as to result in realization of the specific objectives, the teacher has to give the proper stimuli, reinforcement and feedback. The teacher should also adopt strategies to suit the needs of the pupils and the specific objectives to be realized. When the teacher does this, a proper reaction can be expected from the pupils in response to the stimuli and teaching techniques used by the teacher. Thus, the interaction phase of teaching involves the effective interaction between teachers and pupils in an appropriate classroom atmosphere, wherein the teacher provides suitable activities for the students. See post-active phase. As mentioned earlier, this phase deals with the evaluation activities, first and foremost. It attempts to measure the desirable change in behavior in the pupils, resulting in the realization of the specific instructional objectives. Now let us see what the ways of testing this achievement. The following are the general devices adopted: tests, quiz, oral questions, structured or unstructured situations, and behavioral situation. The devices are to be selected appropriately so that they project the extent of improvement in the students.
अगर आपको जानकारी अच्छी लगी हो तो चैनल को लाइक कीजिए, शेयर कीजिए और सब्सक्राइब भी कीजिए। आप वीडियो तो देखते हो लेकिन सब्सक्राइब नहीं करते तो अभी सब्सक्राइब कीजिए।